Wait there, Mr. Shadow Knight. I'm calling bullshit on your headcanon. Shadow Knight makes a very good point about evolution and how Earth ponies, if they're just, regular DNA, then they, by all rights, should have been ground to extinction if they hadn't evolved stronger legs, tougher skin, yada yada yada. But here's the thing. Pegasi wings aren't big enough to carry them aloft. Now, I know what you're saying. How the hell does that equate to Earth ponies being strong and that not being magic? Well, here's this. When Tirek steals the quote-unquote magic of flight from Pegasi, there is no reason why they wouldn't be able to fly. Because if their wings can, by some magical reason, carry them aloft, despite them being about 3 sizes too small to actually carry a horse-sized being aloft, bear in mind that most birds have wingspans applicable to their body length. So an albatross's wings are about as long as the albatross is, right? Even robins. A robin's wingspan, about as long as the robin. Maybe a little bit longer if you account for the finger feathers. I'm forgetting the actual term for them. And the same should be true for Pegasi. And there are Pegasi that have wings that are far too small for what they do. I mean, bulk biceps, or Snowflake. I'm of the opinion that there are 2 bulk biceps. One is bulk biceps that can't fly, and one is Snowflake that is a Wonderbolt candidate. His wings are barely even noticeable. At first glance, you'd think he was an Earth pony on steroids. But yet, his wings can carry him at speeds that qualify him for Wonderbolts. If Pegasi aren't magic, then how does that work? That defies all laws of physics. That has to be magic. Same thing would go for Earth ponies. I like to think that all ponies have magic inherent to them, but the way it's focused depends on how the pony is, like what race they are. So, for example, unicorns can do very direct magic. They can target it, channel it through their horns, and that's how you do magic. Like a magic wand, for example, like an old-fashioned wizard Merlin using his magic staff, or that's Gandalf, but no big deal. Pegasi channel it through their wings to give them lift and the Bernoulli effect and all that. Earth ponies, they don't have a focus for their magic, so their magic is a lot more chaotic than the other ones. It expresses itself in different ways. For example, the apples tend to be a lot stronger than regular ponies. I mean, Big Mac can pull a house along no problem without even noticing. I mean, look at this. He was tied to a house, and he was pulling it along no problem. The apple family can tend apple fields and get apple yields that can keep all of Ponyville and I suspect Canterlot and probably Cloudsdale fed, despite the fact that they're just kicking the trees down. That means there's a lot of speed and a lot of strength going into that, especially when unicorns like Twilight can pluck an entire tree free in a second. So there has got to be something to that. And then we come down to Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pie is the most chaotic conduit for this magical energy I can find an example of. Pinkie Pie isn't especially strong. She isn't especially smart. She isn't especially anything except for the fact that basically the laws of physics ignore her, because magic in of itself is the antithesis of science. It is the antithesis of physics. It is the antithesis of everything logical. Magic doesn't have to be logical. If we look in the comics, we see that there's an alternate dimension running parallel to Equestria, the Equestria Prime that we know, where magic isn't really a thing. Like, it exists and people use it, but technology is the thing that makes that world go. You have basically a Victorian-era steampunk thing going on. Sure, there are unicorns and they, levitate stuff around and magic spells are cast, but magic isn't a big deal. Meanwhile, in Equestria Prime, magic controls everything, and we see the occasional technological thing, like the lights in Manhattan, and Vinyl's turntables, and things that most people would say kind of anachronistic. So, Pinkie Pie is magic. Pinkie Pie is the most purest, chaotic form of magic there is because her body doesn't have a horn. Her body doesn't have wings. Her body is a conduit for magic. And she is my biggest argument for Earth Ponies having magic. One thing that's the problem with Shadow Knight's headcanon is that evolution doesn't really work in a reactionary way like that. Sure, maybe you get a creature with a little bit stronger legs or a little bit tougher skin, but if you have one race of ponies that is bland and does nothing, evolution takes a long time, and when you're fighting against people who are just as strong as you, only they can fly and shoot death lasers out of their head, it doesn't matter how fast you evolve, you aren't gonna be ready when they decide to attack. I don't see Earth Ponies evolving fast enough to get on par with unicorns or Pegasi. And that's really all I have to say on this. Like, Shadow Knight, I love your videos, man, and you bring up good points, but there's no reason Earth Ponies aren't magical, because if they aren't magical, how do cutie marks work? Cutie marks are obviously magical. Cutie marks tie into magic, so if Earth Ponies aren't magic, how did they have cutie marks? And if they aren't magic, how can two Earth Ponies come together to make a Pegasus and a unicorn baby, like the Cakes did? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that there's gonna be an Earth Pony mage running about that does magic and shoots magic out of her hoofs. All I'm saying is, don't discount that just because no one shows absolute magic and shooting lasers out their eyes, that someone isn't magic.